Well, you may not be aware of it, but China and Britain sealed Hong Kong's fate well before the Joint Declaration was signed. In our special series, Hong Kong Back and Beyond, Sir Richard Evans tells us about that and how there were more than just political pressures facing both sides. We caught up with Sir Richard at his home outside of London. The 69-year-old has been spending his time writing. His experiences in China led him to write a biography of Deng Xiaoping, someone he closely watched during his time in Beijing as ambassador from 1984 to 1988. The fluent Mandarin speaker may be thousands of miles away from China and Hong Kong, but memories of his talks with his Chinese counterparts during those tough years hammering out Hong Kong's future remain close to home. Sir Richard, what was, in your opinion, the biggest frustration during the negotiations?
The Chinese don't tell you, didn't tell you, and still don't tell you on the side or informally exactly what they're driving at. I did have informal, so-called informal meetings, many of them with Zhou Nan. And Zhou Nan would say, let me suggest this or that or the other, personally and informally. But I knew perfectly well that it wasn't personal and informal. This was a suggestion that he'd had from his chiefs to try out on our side before it was tried out formally at the table.
When Zhou Nan took up his position, basically as your counterpart, was there a great deal of optimism because of his background at the UN? Did the British feel as though they were able to go forward much quicker?
I don't think so. He had been a member of the team before. He in fact became leader of the Chinese side at the same time as I became leader of the British side. We knew more about him than they knew about me. I got on, I think, well with Zhou Nan. But Zhou Nan did tend to see an ulterior motive, a sinister hidden motive in our moves which didn't exist. And I had to spend a good deal of my time explaining to him that that kind of motive did not exist. On the other hand, he was extremely intelligent. He knew his subject backwards. He spoke perfect English. And he did have access to the highest levels in his own country.
Now, Sir Richard, when you signed the draft of the agreement, how did you feel about that after so many rounds of talks to actually sign the draft agreement?
Well, we didn't, to be technically accurate, I only initialed it, and so did Zhou Nan. And this event was to register the fact that the two delegations were agreed upon the texts in front of them, which was the same text. And the signing, which was a more formal event, was between the two heads of government.
Did you take a lot of baggage home to discuss with your wife?
I never talked about the work at home. First of all, I thought, I really must have a break from it and think and talk about something else. And then there was security. You could never be quite sure that what you said at home would not feed its way back to the Chinese or to people who didn't want to hear about it. So I used to cut off completely when I went home and talk about, where we were going to buy some new flowers or whatever it was. I was pretty tired by the time I got home, and I think I was a sort of absentee husband and father for about 9 months. But she loved China, and so did my boys, though they were very young at the time. We had a nice house, and we made lots of friends, and we travelled a certain amount. And it was a very happy time as a family.